so I'm just gonna copy what we had before. We had figured out all of our domains. We just hadn't done our ranges or our equations yet. So remember, we have a piecewise function. It has the three different pieces. So we should have had like f of x is equal to, I have three equations, and then we figured out our three domains. The first domain, we said went from -2 to 1. And the -2, we can put a bracket because it's a closed circle. And then we can say to 1 with a parenthesis. The other one, we could go from 1 to 5. And I can put brackets on both of those because they're both closed. And then I'm going from 5 to 8. And I can put a parenthesis for the 5 and a bracket on the 8. Everyone good with that? That's where we ended yesterday. Okay, so let's go ahead, let's figure out our equations now. So this first line, the blue one, where is my y-intercept of that blue line? Cooper, what do you think?
-4.
Yeah, -4. And then what does it look like the slope of that line might be? I think this one's kind of tricky. So let's see, so if I go here, I go over, I'm counting by 2, so if I go over 2, and then I come up 2, 4, 6, so really I'm going over 1, up 3. So my slope would be, what do you guys think? 3. Okay, positive or negative? Braden? Yeah, positive, I'm going up. So I'd have 3x minus 4 as my first equation. Okay, this next line right here, okay, so again, it's hard to tell because the squares go by 2's. But so if I go, it's just gonna go over 1, up 1. So my slope would be, Kaylee, what do you think? Kaylee, we'll go with you. What's my slope for that orange one?
Up 1 over 1.
Yeah, so it'd just be 1, right? So I can say it's x. And then Faith, where do you think my y-intercept would be if I kept going, if the line could keep coming back? Where do you think it'd be? Yeah, it's gonna be at 3. So I can say x plus 3 would be that equation. And then for the last one, whenever I have just a horizontal line, how do I write an equation for that? Mackenzie, do you have an idea? How I would write this green line right here? Yeah, just be y equals 8, because I don't have any slope, so I don't need an x, because it's not going up, it's not going down, I don't have a slope. So I just need what like the y-intercept would be, which would be the 8 part, so it'd just be 8. Okay, so here is our equation for that piecewise function. You guys feel okay? Yeah? Okay, then the only last little new concept is writing a piecewise function from an absolute value function. Because if we think about an absolute value function, so that looks like, I mean, those are these V graphs. Aren't these technically two pieces? Like one piece has an equation where the slope is negative, and one piece has the equation where the slope is positive. It's like two pieces of a graph. So absolute value graphs can all be written as piecewise and vice versa. So we can go back and forth between the two of them. So my example I have, it says, so f of x is equal to the absolute value of 6x plus 18. Well, when I see something like that, I don't know, like in transformations, like where it shifted, because I have this, well, actually, that 6, I do know where that would be, so let's talk about this. So f of x is equal to absolute value of 6x plus 18 absolute value, okay? So this 6 that's inside on just the x, what's that transformation? Is it gonna be like a vertical or a horizontal? And a stretch or horizontal shrink? Yeah, yep, so it's gonna be a horizontal compression. So this 6 right here is a horizontal compression. Okay. And then this 18, where would that shift the graph?
Up 18.
Up 18? Is it in my absolute value though? like I can think of those as my parentheses.
Oh.
So is it gonna go up or is it gonna go left or right or down or left? Yeah, so it's gonna go left, okay? So this will be my left. But the only thing is I'm actually not gonna go 18 to the left. What you need to do when you see something, when you have like a horizontal stretch or compression, so kind of adding on to our transformation, we want to factor this number out. So if I factor a 6 out, if I take 6 out of x, what would I be left with? Yeah, just x. And if I take 6 out of 18, what would I be left with? 6 times what gives me 18? We're multiplying. 3. Yeah, so x plus 3. So this equation right here is the same as that equation up there. So 6 times x would give me the 6x, and 6 times 3 gives me the 18, okay? So now this is actually, so my graph has a horizontal compression of 6, and it's actually just going to the left 3, okay? So we can factor out that compression. Okay, so in terms of what our graph would look like, if I come over here, so it's gonna go to the left 3, and then if it's gonna be horizontally compressed, that's gonna take the V and it's gonna squish it in. So it's gonna be something probably pretty steep, probably like this, because it was out here and it got smushed in and now it's pretty steep. Okay, that's not accurate, but that's kind of what our graph is gonna look like. So it says we need to find my vertex of the graph it, which we just did, and then write it in piecewise form. So where's my vertex of this graph? What do you guys think? Haley Berry, what do you think? -3. Yeah, -3. And then what would my y coordinate be? 0. Yeah. So my vertex is gonna be at -3, 0. Okay? So now we kind of have everything we need to write a piecewise function. So f of x is equal to, there's gonna be 2 pieces and then 2 domains. Okay, so let's go ahead, let's start with the domains because I always think that's a little bit easier. So looking from left to right for our domain, Jade, where do you think the domain for this piece should be?
Negative infinity to -3.
Yeah, negative infinity to -3. Okay, do I want a bracket or a parenthesis on my -3?
A bracket.
Yeah, a bracket, I go ahead and I touch right there. And then Paige, what do you think my domain would be for this other side? So if I start at,
Positive, or -3 to +50.
yeah, exactly, okay. And then I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put a parenthesis with the -3 to positive infinity, because you can technically only with piecewise functions have it touching once. And the reason for that is, remember that worksheet when I talked about like what a function is, when I said the vertical line test, like if you were to take, say we had this circle, I draw a vertical line, if I touch at 2 spots, then that's not a function. Well, since I'm treating these as 2 different lines, that would be 2 points right here, 1 point on this line and 1 point on the other line, and I couldn't have that, so you're gonna do a bracket on one and a parenthesis on the other. It doesn't matter which one, they just both can't be closed because then it would be not a function, and piecewise are functions. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're getting close. So now all I need is my equations. So if I look at like what my line is, so when we factored this, we had absolute value of 6x plus 3. This 6 out here, this is my slope, isn't it? So my equation for this line right here, what do I think the slope of this line is? Let's do this side first. What do I think the slope of this would be? Caden?
-6.
Yeah, -6, because I'm using that 6 and I'm going down, so it would just be -6. -6x. What do I think my slope of this line would be over here? Ocean, what do you think?
6.
Yeah, 6, it's just gonna be positive 6x. Okay, so whatever number you're given, that's your slope of that line. So now the only thing is I now need to figure out where my y-intercepts would be. So if this one kept going down, where it's gonna cross, and then where this one crosses up here. So that's the last piece for what I can do, okay? And so, does anyone have any idea? Braden?
18 and negative 18.
Yeah, it's gonna be 18 and negative 18, because it comes just from there, because if I think, so my slope, so it's 6x plus 18 is this line right here, so 6x plus 18, so that's my second line. And then this line right here, if it were to keep going down, it would be the negative 6x and then minus 18. Okay, so basically, long story short, if you're taking an absolute value and turning it into a piecewise, in terms of graphing it, we factor out the compression or the stretch so that we can see where our vertex would be, because that helps us with our domain. But the equation comes straight from what you're given. So you're gonna use that equation for one of them, and then you're just gonna use the negative one for the other one, okay? So the only reason we had to factor it was to help us get these numbers for our domain, okay? Does that make sense? That's just, long story short, your equation is the same, factor it to give you the domain, okay? And then the last one is a step function. So a step function just looks like little staircases. So they're all gonna be just straight horizontal lines, just like little stair steps. I actually have a picture, I'll show you what it looks like, right? So if we look, this is a step function. So it's just like little stair steps all going up, okay? So if we go back, it says, our word problem, it says the shipping cost of items purchased from an online store is dependent on the weight of the items. So it says the table represents shipping costs, which are our y, based on the item's weight. So if I were to graph this function, these are my x's, so from 0 to 2, I would draw a horizontal line at 5. Because between 0 and 2 pounds, if I ship something, it's gonna cost me $5. If my item weighs between 2 and 4 pounds, it's just gonna cost $8. So these are all just like straight lines. So to graph it, okay, so then to graph this, so here I have my graph. So now between 0 and 2, I'm gonna be up at 5. Let's see, I have to go to 14, so I'll count by 5s. 5, 10, 15. And I'm coming out to 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so from 0 until 2, all I'm gonna do is draw a straight line at 5. But I need to make sure I get my circles right, whether they're open or closed. At 0, do you guys think I should have an open or a closed circle? Jade, what do you think? Open. What about at 2? Yeah, open and then closed. So I'm gonna have an open one here at 0 and a closed one at 2. And then I just have a straight line right there. Gillyberry, what do you think so the next one, I'm gonna draw a straight line at 8. At 2, should I have an open circle or closed?
Open.
And at 4? Closed. Yeah, so at 2, let's see, so now I'm up here at 8, I'd have an open circle, and I'd come over to 4, where I'm gonna have a closed circle. And you can see that these are functions, because even though these both are when our x is 2, if I were to draw like my vertical line, well, that point's open, so it doesn't touch, but it touches this one because it's closed. So this is still a function, it follows the rules, okay? So that's why only one can be closed and the other has to be open if they're on the same number, okay? So now I can go ahead and jump up to 11. Braden, on my 4, should I do an open or a closed circle? And then on my 6?
Closed.
Open.
Closed.
Okay, and then Cooper, for the last one, when I'm up at 14, do I want open on my 6 or closed? Open. And then on my 8? Yeah. Okay, so here's our step function. It would look just like this. I wouldn't have this line, but, okay. So you can see it's just multiple pieces of a graph. So it's also step functions are piecewise functions, and then you can do piecewise or absolute values. So lots of different graphs can be piecewise functions. Okay, so then here's the graph that we just drew and that I showed you before. And the last question, it says, so what are the domain and range of the function? And then it says, what are the maximum and minimum values? So if I talk about my domain, that's all of my x's. What do you guys think my domain would be? Faith, what do you think? What'd you say? The 5. Okay, so for my x's. Okay, so 5 on my x. Are you thinking range? So let's talk about x. So do I have a number at when x is 0? Okay, so we can go from 0. Do I have something at like 1.2? Do I have a line there? Do I have a number at 3.3? If I keep going, can I go all the way to 8? Can I go from 0 to 8? There's a line all the way. Even though they're in different pieces, I have a graph all the way from 0 until 8, right? Yeah, but the only thing, I have an open circle on 0, so we're gonna say my domain is from 0 to 8, and my 8 has a closed circle, so we'll put a bracket. Okay, so yeah, so there's some sort of line all the way between 0 and 8. Now for my range, Haley Winter, what do you think about this one?
5 to 18 or 15,
I think it was 14. I think my graph is bad. But, so if we look at this one, so you want to go from 5 to 14. Okay, do I have something at 6?
Oh, no.
Or 7? So could I just say, I have 5, I have 8, I have 11, and 14. So in cases like this, we're just gonna list the numbers because I don't have what's in between them. I only have those specific numbers. So my range, I can just list them. So I would have 5, 8, 11, and 14. Okay, because I don't have the numbers, I can't say I'm going from one to the other because I can't go from 5 to 14. I don't have everything in between 5 and 14. I only have those specific numbers. Okay, and then the last thing, so the maximum and minimum. So what do you guys think the maximum price you're gonna pay for your shipping is? What do you think? What's my highest Y value?
14.
Yeah. So the maximum amount I'm gonna pay to ship my box is gonna be $14. What's the least amount I'm gonna pay? Haley Berry, what do you think?
Is it on 7 or 2?
This one?
Oh, okay.
Or this? What'd you say?
Okay, what's your question?
What's the least amount I'm gonna possibly pay?
Oh, so 2.
2?
Or actually 0.
So you're thinking this one?
I think so.
Okay, so at 0 though, well, when something weighs like 0.1 pounds, I'm still gonna have to pay $5 to ship it. So even if it's really, really small, it costs me $5 to ship it. So anytime it's talking about your max and your minimum, you're gonna use your Y values. So if I'm shipping a tiny little package, no matter if it only weighs like a feather, it still weighs something. So I'm gonna get $5, it's gonna cost me $5. So my minimum would be 5, and then my maximum would be 14, okay? Questions over this section? Otherwise, that's everything you guys need to know before your quiz on Monday. You guys can grab a book, start your homework. I'll hand out a note card. Remember, you can fill that out with anything you think will be helpful for your quiz Monday. Front and back, write as small as you want, but you can't type it and print it off. That's my rule, okay?